Yes, good morning, everyone. I am Simon Murray from Digital TV Research, and Justin just said I'm going to cover Western European OTT and pay TV developments. So brace yourselves, early morning, lots of numbers, I'm afraid. So here we go. Anyway, just in case you haven't heard of Digital TV Research, this is us, this is what we do. Okay, on to the figures. Justin just measured... Do you want me to go back? You want the pitch? You get the pitch later. Okay, Justin just mentioned, we're forecasting by 2023, revenues for both OTT and pay TV are going to reach $50 billion. Okay, that is up from $39 billion at the end of 2017. The OTT side of things is going to grow by 13 billion, and the pay TV side of things is going to decrease by $2 billion, okay? Now, just to put this in context, our OTT figures cover movies and TV episodes, okay? They don't cover sports, for example. Also, our OTT figures include AVOD, advertising, but our pay TV figures don't include advertising. So it's not quite, it's not quite apples with apples, if you like. Right, the number of subscriptions is also going to grow quite dramatically. For up to 205 million by 2023. That's up from 153 million at the end of 2017. Now, the number of SVOD subscribers will double over those years. The number of pay TV subscribers will be flat. Okay? So pay TV revenue is going to fall, but pay TV subscriptions are going to stay more or less the same. People will spend less for TV. One of the main reasons for that is because they'll be buying more and more TV through bundles. So if you get a bundle, it's obviously some sort of discount. There's fewer revenues for TV in that bundle. Okay. I told you the numbers. I did warn you. Come on. All right. On the left-hand side, SVOD. We said just now, SVOD subscriptions are going to double over this period. SVOD revenues are going to triple. So ARPU figures for SVOD platforms are going to increase quite substantially. More on that later. AVOD, at the bottom line, AVOD will double over this period to reach nearly $7 billion. Okay? And on the right-hand side, you'll see that the UK will remain the market leader as far as OTT revenues are concerned, taking about 30% of the total. Having said that, although the UK will grow quite substantially, it won't grow as quickly as some of the other countries that have been slower to take off. Services started later in countries such as France and Germany. Actually, more like France than Germany. Okay. Right, now, these figures are from Netflix, showing the rise of its ARPU figures, its revenues per subscriber over the last few years. And as you'll notice, they have grown quite considerably. They're still quite low. A lot of people in Wall Street are saying to Netflix, increase your prices to reduce your debt load. Your prices are too low. We want you to increase your prices and as I say, to reduce the debt. So prices are pretty low. Netflix increases its prices quite regularly. It's not scared to do it. It hasn't. Sometimes they might seem like quite hefty increases, but it's not quite there yet. And in fact, Netflix are experimenting with a few other things, such as lower prices for mobile subscribers in India in the last week. I don't know if you saw. This is a bit of an aside. Netflix stopped offering the free monthly trial in Spain and most of Latin America last week. Most of Latin America, excluding Brazil. Brazil's by far its largest market in Latin America. So that might be an experiment, but it also might be some sort of shape of things to come, really, because Netflix might give up its monthly trial. I've always thought the monthly trial was too long. I always thought people only need a week to make their minds up. I always thought that Netflix was giving away a lot there by having a whole month trial. Anyway, it seems they finally come to agree with me, and they are now considering dropping the trial. I would imagine that Netflix has been established in Latin America for quite a long time, in fact, longer than in the UK. And I would imagine that Netflix is thinking, everybody who needs a trial has had a trial by now, surely. Everyone's aware of Netflix and what it does. Do we need to do the trial process any longer? Anyway, just to wake everyone up, let's have a bit of audience participation. Don't worry, it's not too harmful. Could everyone put your hand up if you have a subscription to Netflix or access to Netflix? Wow, definitely a TV audience. Keep your hands up, keep your hands up. Okay, I would imagine that is at least 3/4 of the audience, probably more like 85%. Keep your hands up, keep your hands up. All right, if Netflix increased their subscriptions next week to £12 a month, would you still keep your subscription? Keep your hand up if you would. Most people. £15. Losing some people. £20. Losing some people. We've got the Netflix employees over here, I think. Okay, all right, good, that's good. Okay, everyone hands down, thank you. So that's really interesting. So everyone was okay with 12. So the maximum price at the moment is £10. Everyone was okay with 12. When we got to 15, everyone was wavering a bit, and there were some hands down. When it got to 20, there was definitely quite a few people who said that they wouldn't go that far. So if we go somewhere in between 12 and 15, that's like $20, $22. Yeah? People were quite happy. In 6 months' time, 22, it will be about $5. Anyway, anyway, at the moment, it's about $22 people were prepared to pay for their Netflix subscription. Look at this chart. The international clients for Netflix are paying under $10 a month. Now, from our very scientific sample of a cross-section of society, we've just established that people will be willing to pay twice as much for Netflix than they are paying now. So, quite interesting. Okay, back to Western Europe and back to, this is all SVOD subscriptions. As you'll see, we're expecting quite a lot of growth here. The UK is still growing quite strongly. We'll get on to that, to the reasons why. France and Germany are growing strongly. I think our French figures for the end of last year are probably a bit low. Netflix announced, well, sorry, there was an article in the Figaro about last week saying that Netflix had 5 million subscribers in France now. Now, even if you assume that 10% of them are trialists, that's still pretty good going in France, and Netflix is really starting to take off in France, which was one of its later markets, but it's showing signs of growth now. All right, these figures are from BARB, and they cover the top 3 platforms in the UK: Netflix, Amazon, and Sky's Now TV. As you can see, there's been quite a lot of growth for Netflix, although it seems to be slowing down a bit. Now seems to be slowing down quite a lot. The reason why I'm showing this chart is the bottom line, is the line there. It shows how many subscriptions there are per SVOD subscriber. Okay, this is sort of flavour of the month as far as us analysts are concerned on how many subscriptions will people take per home. Okay, and as you can see, it's reached 1.4 subscriptions per SVOD subscriber at the end of last year. Now, in the States, it's already over 2. It's well beyond. It's believable to think that the UK will have 2 fairly soon, especially with so many launches happening. But what I'm trying to say is, people are prepared to take more than 1 subscription. They might not take as many subscriptions as they do in the States per household, but they're still prepared to take more than 1. This is just a comparison between Netflix and Amazon. We think Netflix is going to double its subscriber base to 50 million by 2023. Amazon's going to show some growth. I'll get onto that later. The others part of this chart is even faster growth. Okay? And this chart reveals how we think the subscribers are going to be split between Netflix and Amazon by 2023. And as you'll see, Netflix has a better split per country than Amazon. Okay? Amazon's very reliant on it's Amazon Prime countries. There are 9 Amazon Prime countries in Western Europe. So Amazon Prime obviously gives you free access to Amazon Prime Video. So the strongest markets in Western Europe for Amazon Prime Amazon Prime Video are going to be the countries that have Amazon Prime. The other 9 countries that we cover that don't have Amazon Prime yet, the take-up's going to be much lower. And we think that the number of people actually subscribing to Amazon Prime Video directly, actually paying directly for Amazon Prime Video, is only going to be 1.43 million by 2023 in those 9 countries outside Amazon Prime. That's not very good. That's not a real take-up. And although Amazon said several times that they don't see Amazon Prime Video as being a profit unit in its own right, they do have to consider the fact if they've only got 1.43 million homes generating revenues for their video unit, how much are they going to pour into originals? I mean, originals are great for a flagship, 1 or 2 of them, but how much more money are you going to pour into something and your return is you only get 1.43 million subscribers? Okay. And here come the new players. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, on Monday. Apple announced its new service, launching in 100 countries in the autumn of this year. Most of the rest of the logos there will probably be launching outside the US next year. Okay. What we're seeing is, like me, you probably roll your eyes every time you read an article that says this is going to be the Netflix of this or the Netflix of that. It's going to be the Netflix of France or the Netflix of sport. Very few people are trying to emulate Netflix. I think on that chart there, the people who are trying to do it are the ones on the left-hand side with Apple, I think you could add. The other 2 are trying different models. They're trying an advertising-related model here. So I think everyone, not just these companies, I think everyone, when you're launching an SVOD platform, you have to ask yourself the question, what have you got that nobody else has got? I mean, it seems fairly obvious, doesn't it? How often can you refresh whatever you've got? How are you going to distribute it? I think alliances with pay TV operators, telcos and mobile operators are becoming more and more vital. And one exception of that has been Amazon. But outside Europe, Amazon has actually formed quite a few alliances with pay TV operators in Latin America and in Asia, for example. And I think we'll see more of those in Europe. The other question, of course, is when are they going to make money out of this? How many subscriptions do they need to make money out of it, especially given the fairly high content costs? And I read an article recently that quoted a Wall Street banker saying that he thought that Disney pulling its content from Netflix was a loss of revenues for Disney of $500 million annually. So Disney were prepared to lose $500 million. I would imagine, I'm guessing, I don't know this, I would imagine Disney was probably the biggest recipient of any content fees from Netflix. But $500 million, that's a lot of subscriptions. Even if you assume that, let's assume, I haven't announced this yet, but let's assume that Disney is charging $10 a month for its new service, okay? That's 4 million subscribers that you need to get just to get the same revenues, more than $4 million, 4 million subscribers that you need to get up to the before you start covering your Netflix revenues, okay? Now, other companies won't get $500 million from Netflix by any means, but you can see it's a big chunk of money for a lot of companies. And so you've got to think, am I going to give this up and go it alone, or am I actually going to stay with a nice stable source of revenue? And here's the European answer to a lot of those questions as well, answer to a lot of those things. It's interesting to see, I mean, a lot of companies have been fairly successful so far with AVOD platforms, with advertising, taking advertising money for catch-up services. Very few free-to-air broadcasters are actually making a success of an SVOD platform for charging for their content. The only one, it took me quite a long time to get there, but the only one apart from Hulu in the States, which has 25 million subscribers, which is approximately a fifth of TV households, and Hulu, the reasons for Hulu's success are probably different from others. The only other one I could really think of was Stan in Australia, which has 1 million subscribers, which is pretty good going in the Australian market. The RTL announced that its SVOD service in in Germany and the Netherlands had 1 million subscribers now, and it's targeting 3 million. That's pretty good, but it's not Netflix numbers, is it, really? I mean, it's a pretty good going service. But I think the thing here is, I think a problem I have with BritBox and Salto, for example, is Salto is the French version of BritBox, by the way. It doesn't have Canal Plus. Is that the participants, the BBC and ITV, their biggest competitor isn't Netflix. It's each other. You know, you're asking people to put content on a platform that will assist your competitors, and that's why RTL refused to join ProSieben Sat.1 and Discovery in Germany, because it thought, well, we're helping our competitors in a way. That's why Netflix, a slightly different scenario, refused to go on the new Apple platform. Why should we help our competitors here? So I think the problem we have with joining forces, for whatever reason, BritBox or whatever, is the fact that nobody's going to be willing to put too much new stuff on there that's of any high standard, because they're effectively helping the competitors. They're also missing out on putting that content on their own platform. So I think that's a bit of a problem here. I think what we're going to get is these players. There are going to be more and more partnerships. A lot of people are going to launch, obviously, and there are going to be quite a few casualties. But I think what we've got here is that these players will be partnering more with these players. These players need these players because of the EU 30% minimum European quota that's going to come in place. These players, some of them have substantial production bases in Europe, but they don't have. I'll be very surprised if some of them have 30% European content already, so they need to partner with the other players, the local players. Plus, it's not just a matter of meeting quotas, it's also a matter of localizing your content and making it more accessible to people in those markets. So that's a 10-minute roundup of what's going on in Western Europe. Thank you very much.